Okay. I can see Steve there. I saw Dapper's said that they're back. Everyone's here?
Hello.
Cool.
Hello.
Awesome. Okay. I've been racking my brain over the last 5 minutes. I think what's important here is I think we all need to agree that let's put the past in the past and agree that we'll call it a misunderstanding. I think where you two are at, I don't think you're actually that far away from a resolution, but I think the challenge is a lot of it is, as we're trying to get this resolution, is going back to what's happened previously. And I think if we keep going backwards, we're not going to be able to go forwards.
Can we ask what she would? I've been trying to find out what she would like for quite some time. I've asked for numbers, what she thought I owe her, because I'm trying to pay her out, right? Even though I haven't been, even paid myself on this yet.
I disagree
because
with
of
that.
AdSense, but I've asked for an actual number to see where she's at on this, and I have not got an actual number. So can we find out? Because I know what I want. I've put it on the table. What I'm willing to negotiate, what I'm willing not to, and what I would like.
Can I please hear what Steve is actually willing to negotiate on? Because I've only heard what he's not willing to negotiate on.
As far I'm willing to negotiate on, Chris had said, from the previous revenue, that goes in expenditures. After a certain time, I'm happy to split all that, and we could work out something where it's 50-50 completely across all revenue for all AdSense, completely across the board at some point, and revisit it every 6 months. And things of that nature. Those things are fine. I have no problem with that. I want you to be compensated fairly. I don't know why you think that I would never want to, and I don't think
I almost said equal. Chris, can I get a clarification from you?
Sure.
It sounds to me that Steve paid out $5,000 of monies that he is supposed to be repaid to on Kyle. He wants to borrow from the channel to get that money paid back to him sooner, so he can do with it as he wills until said time as he begins getting revenue back from Kyle. Is that accurate?
I would use different terminology. I wouldn't use the term borrows. My
Sure.
understanding is he's looking to call that an expense, but then in the event that the money comes in from Kyle,
it goes to the channel, not to him.
That's 5 years down the line, by the way.
I'm not concerned about time. I'm just trying to understand. Okay. So that means that he's going to take. Let me just get this clear, and please, I am asking Chris, Steve. I am specifically asking Chris.
Sure.
There is $5,000 that Steve is counting as an expenditure. So he wants to use the money that we agreed upon to use towards that expenditure.
So the residuals from prior,
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Now, that money is still owed to him by Kyle. So does that mean that money, as it comes in from Kyle, would go back into the channel, and or to 50% of that would go then to me?
So my understanding from the discussion we had, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, is that when that $5,000 comes in, that goes against the straight against that.
I would be willing, if the $5,000 come in, I would be willing to give her half of that back to offset that, so it would be equal on that.
Okay,
yes.
So no, you're not willing to put the $5,000 back into the channel, but you're willing
I would just give it to you.
But so you're not willing to put that $5,000 back into the channel?
I don't know what that means.
Can you clarify?
So right now, the money that he's taking out is supposed to be going into channel expenses. I'm asking if he's willing to put that $5,000 back into channel expenses.
I still don't.
I think. Okay, sorry.
If you're following it, that's fine. But I'm going to
say I'm following
his $2,500 and give it cash to her.
So what Steve is saying is...
Steve, be careful with those offers of cash. Remember what happened last time.
What?
Okay, so here's what it would be. Okay, so yes, what Steve is saying, that would go back into the channel expenditure.
And I'll put that in writing.
If there's a period of time, so say there's been say Steve gets the whole $5,000 in one hit, but $1,000 has been taken out of the channel expenditure. So that money would go back in.
That $1,000 would go.
There's $1,000 that you would have, if had it have gone in day one, that you would have gotten that split on. Of that $1,000, half of that would go to you. because that's the money that is owed back to. I guess,
So
that
we're back to
separate-
agreeing that I have a 50% stake in that residual money, but we have agreed that that money is currently going into channel expenditures, whatever those expenditures may be.
Sounds right.
That's kind of the way it was. But again, when this first thing brought up, I was like, I didn't even expect that you would want the previous. That was news to me, but it's fine. But yeah, I mean, I have no problem being equitable and fair on that. And like I said, if Kai was to have, reimburse me for that, then yeah, I'm happy to give that money back. I mean, why would I not? But right now isn't
because I don't know, because you're not communicating with me in a way that I can understand.
And this is the problem. We do not have the same. I don't know if it's terminology or meeting the minds, and this is why I hang on. This is why This is why I feel at this time we need to work out a separation for this.
Steve, you have been cruel to me for weeks.
I have never been cruel to you.
I have it on audio. There are people that were in the moderator chat agreeing and
right.
coming to me. There were people coming to me after live streams saying, "Why is Steve being mean to you?" What do you mean let you fit? I'm Steve. Chris, please.
Hang on. Everyone's talking over each other.
Chris, this is oh, go ahead, Manya.
Steve, please. You might think you're not cruel to her, but it matters what she thinks.
I agree. I think she was being cruel to me, and other people have came to me saying that
so
she's been Manya. It works
Chris.
both ways. Manya.
Chris.
Okay.
It works
Hang on a second.
I'm-
I want to make this easy. I'm just going to mute everyone. Okay. All right. I've just muted everyone. I don't want to do this, but it's turning into a yelling match. Okay. So maybe what I'm going to suggest here is we say that Chesh feels as though she's been treated in this way. It wasn't Steve's intent, and maybe if we sort of say that Steve, you at least be mindful of that and acknowledge that's how she feels, and Chesh, maybe if you acknowledge, okay, yes, how you feel is important, but that wasn't necessarily the intent. Maybe that's best, because otherwise it just won't move forward.
Fine.
So I'm just
I mean, we both have our own opinions on how we've been treated. I have been treated poorly. I've been treated. I believe personally, I've been gaslit, and I believe that things have been very cruel to me in certain aspects. But I'm not making an issue of that. That was not supposed to be part of the negotiations.
Well,
that's a subjective evaluation. Now, at
Chris.
this point, again, I don't feel comfortable we're able to work together on this particular endeavor. I would like to work a negotiation of how we extricate.
Chris, I'm having an issue with when I'm trying to get to a point, I'm being interrupted by Steve asking me not to interrupt him.
all right. So I'm going to give the floor to Chesh, and until I sort of say, then yeah.
I'm saying that even during these negotiations, you are not hearing what I am saying for the majority of things, and there are things that I am not saying that you're taking that I have not said. So I would like to go back to the amounts that I was discussing, and I would like to go back to, since Steve is so desperate for a number, maybe this time he cannot laugh at me when I'm trying to demonstrate what I'm trying to talk about. Since whatever, doesn't matter. So the jobs that I was doing, according to Steve, which I have video and audio recording for, was PR management, personal assistant, community management. I'm going to now break this down in its entirety. A PR management job is a $73K to $114K job a year salary. Personal assistant is a $40K job a year salary. Community management is a $64K a year salary. These are jobs, and they are not the high end of these jobs. This is low average. So I took the median. I didn't add all these together. I took the median of those to say 60K. I was doing these jobs for 2 years. That reaches 120K for those 2 years. Now, when it comes to what I was doing on non sequitur, if Steve wants to treat me as a contractor with no stake in what actually happens with the company or with the channel, however you want to put it, because I don't think with all of these additional things, I think it's a misnomer to call it a channel.
All right, apologies, I was listening there.
Yeah, no
my
problem.
dog was locked in and started barking. I didn't want to interrupt that, so I just had to let him know.
So with what I've been doing, this is how the amount that I've been working on since the channel started breaks down in a monetary way. 4 hours a day working on vMix for 3 months. That I broke down into a total of $1,200 for the, like, just working part-time at, like, about a minimum wage. The emotes are $50 a piece. That's the average going rate. That's actually kind of low for emotes. I've done $150 worth of emotes. The member icons are about a total, also $50 a piece, which is a total of $300. The main nun logo is at minimum a $100 piece of artwork. The thumbnails at about $20 a thumbnail, which is, again, a good going rate for 13 thumbnails, is 14 thumbnails is $280. The layouts, which is a $50 surcharge to make the initial layout, and then $10 for whatever change up of that layout was necessary, for 12 layouts ended up being, 13 or 14 layouts, I have to double check that number, came to a total of about $200. And then the banner, which I only charge $34, which is, again, a very, very good rate. The merchandise, instead of charging for each piece of merch, because some things are obviously more expensive than others, some things are a little bit less expensive, I just took a flat $40 for merch for each piece, for $160. That ends up being a total of $2,420 over the course of the 3 months. Now, for showtime and prep for appearing on the show, I would think that with the amount that I do during a live stream, which includes hosting, modding the chat, tracking questions, tracking super chats, as well as being involved in the show, and running vMix, and running the emotes, and run like all of the Stream Deck stuff, I think it's reasonable to say that that's $50 per hour, which is plus 2 hours prep for the show that needs to happen that day, that is directly for the show, not including whatever the paper that I was apparently supposed to read. With the number of shows that we've done in the past, the number of shows that have been done total is a total of, with the 2 hours prep time, is a total of 43 hours. At $50 an hour is $2,150 for the months added up. Add those together, it equals, for the past 3 months, is $4,570 on the amount of work that I have put into the show, minimum.
Okay. Are you complete?
Well, if I wanted to keep going, I could say that the total for that for an amount would equal a... if you include the 120K, would equal a $1,240,570 for the past 2 years worth of work and 3 months, including the show. And if I was to take a severance package of some kind, that would be to at least complete the year, which added together would be $60K, because I still do the PR management job, I still do the personal assistant job, and I still do the community management job. This is neglecting some of the additional things that I do. If we were to finish that out for the year, it would be another $60K, plus if you add all those together, assuming I do no more additional artwork for the show and just move that into a total, it would be to, like, say that I do the equivalent amount, because that would be what severance would be $18,280. Added together would be $78,280 for things related to just this year. So all together, the total amount would be $1,000 to me if we were to actually just math out the amount of work and money that would be paid to me if I was being paid for these jobs directly and not under a 50-50 agreement that thought I was working under, whether that's accurate or not. This is what I thought I was working under. Is a total of $198,280. I have one last thing, and then I'll promise I'll be done. Minimum wage in California equates to $17.86 Canadian. This is all Canadian. $17.86 Canadian, which means for the amount of work that I've done, if you were to just add up the amount of time at a minimum wage, it equals a total of $34,291.20 for 1 year. If you were to extend that to 2 years, it would be $68,582.40 for the work I was doing for the 2 years that I was under the impression that I was working a 50-50 agreement, and that's if it was just minimum wage. So that does not factor in the actual work I was doing, which is not minimum wage work. I am now complete. Please continue with the conversation.
Okay, so let me address that.
I would really rather hear Chris's thoughts first, if that's okay.
Oh, I get to respond.
I'm not saying that you can't respond, but I would like to hear Chris's thoughts on my breakdown.
I need to wrap my head around that a little bit.
Okay, thank you. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I get to respond now?
Yeah. Okay. I'll listen and then I'll give my thoughts.
All right. So this seems to me exactly what Kyle was trying to do. Something that was just on a channel that makes about $500 a month.
That's funny. I could say the same.
I didn't interrupt you.
Okay.
For a channel that makes $500 a month, for her to say that she invested $200,000 worth of time seems absolutely absurd to me. The channel makes about $500 a month. At most, we were talking about making $1,000. We'd split half of that, for $500 each, and have that kind of income. How at a $500 income would anybody justify $200,000 worth of work? Is just not makes absolutely no sense. Makes absolutely no sense to me. So I think that is completely irrelevant. She was never on salary. She was anything like that was never negotiated. Anything was not that talked about. Everything she did was under the contention or under the thing that she would get 50% of the revenue coming in. That's the deal. And so what I'd like to do at this point, again, how do we extricate from this? This is what I like to negotiate. I want to make sure she's fairly paid for the work she's done on the last 2 months. And I don't have a number for that still. So I don't know how much she thinks she's due. Again, once I get paid for that myself, obviously, because I haven't got a dime. I have not received a dime from AdSense from Non Sequitur Show yet. Not a dime.
I did give a number. I actually did give a number of the total amount of work that and an amount that would include just art assets, PMix assets, and show assets. I'm just pointing that out. But please continue.
If I may speak, Chris. Steve, this is a very different situation. You had a 50-50 agreement with Kyle. Chesh here is an independent contractor. Whether the channel makes any money is irrelevant. You still pay her for it.
Incorrect. She gets paid. Manya, that's completely wrong. Manya,
if she was a partner,
Manya, that's completely wrong.
If she was a partner, then Chris can correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, he will, because it's completely wrong.
If Chesh was a partner, a 50% partner, then whether the channel makes an income and she gets the cut of the income, then it would matter. But because she's an independent contractor and her work comes under channel expenses, which is before the profits, she gets it. It does not depend whether the channel makes an income or not.
Technically, that's not correct. And I'll explain why. And this is purely from a business and legal aspect. If it's an independent contracting arrangement with a profit share split, then the income is dependent upon the actual
and there'd be monthly receipts
unless there's a set amount agreed to as an hourly.
And there'd be monthly.
What I think is best here.
Chris, I can't hear what you're saying because Steve keeps interrupting you.
What I think the best thing to do here moving forward, because I think we're kind of at a bit of a loggerhead. So I think we've actually made some progress, and I think there's either way. I'm sure we can get to an amicable resolution for everyone, whether that's moving forward together or not moving forward together. What I'm going to suggest is we do table it for 48 hours. In the meantime, I'd like to speak to you both individually without the other, and then we can either come together as a meeting of the minds, or we can just sort of, I can be the ham in the sandwich, for lack of a better term, to try and work out the resolution moving forward or not moving forward.
Yeah, I don't particularly have an issue with that. However, at this point, I would like to have at least a brief discussion of how to extricate from the situation, because I am not comfortable any longer in this arrangement. It has gone to the point of absurdity for a channel that only makes a limited amount of money. I don't think it's conducive to a business arrangement to have this kind of partnership. As far as this kind of this amount of it's just absurd to me. So I would like to discuss what Chesh would like in order to extricate from the arrangement.
I would also like a little bit of clarification on Steve saying that none of my point or my numbers matter, while also saying that he's demanding a number from me.
All right. So if I can, I'm going to come in as a realistic expectation. The reality is Steve isn't going to be in a position to pay.
I am aware of that. That was never the point I was making.
And I think what you were trying to say was, hey, here's what I've done, and had I have been paid as an employee, this is what I could have earned. And I feel you want to feel that work is valued. And
I'm trying to say that, like, I understand that there is absolutely zero reason with this misunderstanding and the way that it's been handled between the two of us, that there is absolutely, and I came into this with the expectation, especially with how Steve has still yet to explain to me what he's actually willing to negotiate on. I have not heard of a single thing that he's actually willing to compromise with me on or about or for in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, I understood that as soon as the meeting with the mods happened the way they did, that there isn't really much coming back from that. As a resolution, one of the reasons why I brought these numbers forward and to make this clear was to, one, as Steve was saying, that I was not invested into the channel whatsoever and did not invest into it for 2 years, and I just don't believe that's true. And two, that it does not make any sense to me why I would ever agree to something where I have zero power but have to still do still get only profit sharing. That seems like an unreasonable and an unfair expectation. And considering what Steve said yesterday, where he said that I am not very business savvy, at that point, the only conclusion I can come to is that Steve took advantage of my naivete.
That's absolutely incorrect. Yeah, that's see, this is what this to me is now becoming personal, that I would ever do such a thing. I want very fairness. I want to make sure that she's paid accurately. This is why I kept having her try to review the finances. I kept asking her many times, is this correct? I'm trying to pay you out. Please verify this. From the beginning, I want to make sure that she was, and I never got a specific number. This is what I think I'm owed.
I think that's a miss.
How is she supposed to know that you're treating her fairly? I don't get it.
Maybe. Sorry, we'll let you finish and then. Sorry,
I want to finish.
Yeah, that was my fault. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. We both feel there have been treated unfairly. So again, not a matter of under discussion. At this point, I want to do the fairest thing, and at this point, I think we need to just discuss how to extricate from the situation and how to resolve it. That's what I would like to negotiate. I've already put on the table what the original agreement that I thought we were under, that we were not obviously under, because obviously I think things were changed. I was negotiating to have the original agreement that she gets 50% of all the revenue coming in after taxation and expenditure, which was the original agreement. That's what I'm willing to negotiate. As far as the channel, not willing to negotiate. We have a loggerhead. We have an impasse. What would she like to do in order to extricate from this? This is what I want to discuss.
All right. Really quickly, Dapper's just put in the chat that just to give input, and I think Dapper's been pretty brilliant for the last hour and 20.
Yes.
So, it's easy when you just say literally nothing. So I was asked by Chesh to give my take, and I think that's because Steve and Chesh both respect my objectivity and fairness in the matter. And my biggest thing is, I don't really care what previous agreements were. If there is a new agreement that can be agreed to, I think it's fine to change previous agreements as long as parties are okay with it. But I will say that in Steve's lawsuit against Kyle, there was a additional term that he was suing for in case most of the things that he actually thought were going on, like the actual breach of contract and fraudulent conversion and whatnot, were in there. And forgive me if I mispronounce it, but I believe it came down to quantum merit or anything. But anyway,
quantum root.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but the point of it is basically that Steve had been laboring falsely for a belief that he had a stake in the non sequitur show that he did not, according to this particular case, which I think is the position that Chesh feels like she's in now. And in that, the idea was, I'm not saying, I think that in that, the idea was that there should be some kind of payment floor if there's not going to be that degree of stake. And I think that that is fair. Now, like Chris had said, I don't think there's any chance of a full-time salary being paid out for all of this work. But I do think that it is fair that there be an ask for some kind of payment floor that until profit share goes over, that would be reasonable for any kind of contractor. Because I don't think Chesh would have signed any contract that said she's going to do work full-time for profit share without an ownership stake. And maybe I'm wrong. And that's all I have.
So just to, I'm just going to give a quick legal explanation on quantum mirror. So that only applies where there's a contract in place, and the difference there is that there was an offer and acceptance, a clear offer and acceptance between Steve and Kyle, which it looks as though with the difference of opinion. So that's it's similar to what you're saying. And I don't
it's an analogy. I'm not saying it's
disagree with what
that's fair. Yeah, but that's a legal
just want to clarify the term.
And by the way, Dapper, the reason why quantum root was put in there is because if all the other things that we had put in there, the unfair and deceptive trade practices, the breach of fiduciary, all that stuff, because he stole the money. It was a breach of fiduciary duty. He literally stole the money. I'm willing to pay her money. There's never been an agreement. I mean, never been a disagreement about it. Well, let me finish. There's never been a disagreement with that. The quantum root is if he kept all the money and I get zero while I was on the show, doing the show for 2 years, that would have been the catch-all. That's why the quantum root was in there. We had to establish. Okay, so I don't know why you brought it up, because there's really, as an analogy, maybe I could give you that, but that is a legal term that doesn't apply. You do agree with that?
I know it doesn't apply, and it was an example of the idea that if someone is laboring falsely under a belief in a business organization, that there needs to be some kind of compensation for work done under a false belief about that contract, and that's the only reason I brought it up, is because there's a similarity here where Chesh was believing that she was getting something that I don't think Steve intended to agree to.
And I never did.
And
I believe that. Was
Steve,
the case.
Can you please let him finish?
And so I think the only fair resolution to this is that if Chesh doesn't get what she thought she had in terms of stake in the company, that there be some kind of payment floor. And I'm not saying you both have to agree to it. I'm just saying that is the take that I am seeing with this, that there should be a payment floor for someone who's coming in without an ownership stake and who is laboring full time.
Okay, let me ask a question. Chris?
I also have a question.
Chris, would you be willing at a future date to talk to Reds on his input, because he had input on the channel, because he was well aware of the fact that I never offered anything about the channel to Cheshire? Would you be willing to talk to Reds about that? Because obviously he was involved with the channel. Would that be of importance here?
I have two things out of that then.
Also, I'm only, again, sticking to the original agreement, I'm willing to give her 50% for the last 2 months of the revenue coming in, because it was based upon revenue.
Three things now.
Revenue, not work done. So this, again, I think we're just wasting time. What would she like in order to, I need an amount for how to extricate from this and what she would like going forward.
So, all right. So that was your question. So I'm going to come to those. Chesh, you've got the questions. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come around and kind of wrap it up.
I don't know when anything ever got changed off of in perpetuity. I also do not think that I was under the impression that when Reds extricated himself from the internet, that he extricated himself from any of this deal.
Never.
And, please let me finish, he now has a conflict of interest, and I don't think him being in would be fair. Third, I don't understand why it seems that we're treating Steve's interpretation of the agreement as more valid than mine. On top of that, like to mitigate that, there was a conversation that Steve had in the mod Discord last night where everyone was in agreement with my interpretation. So there is no point in any of our paperwork that is like he was sharing with the mods, like the oh, this person is this person is this person is this, in everything that is on the channel visually, in everything that is on the channel, descriptions, the about, the Twitter, everything related, the Discord, we are being portrayed as being 50-50 equal. When it was asked multiple times, which I have in recording, is Chesh 50-50? Steve would say yes, but I have 100% veto power, and everyone, right? Yes, everyone agreed that that is not 50-50.
Okay. Let me
Steve,
respond
really quickly, and
Really
then
quickly,
I'm going
1
to
minute.
respond to everything.
There are many different types of agreements that was pointed out the other night. I don't know why you would think that Reds had no say on it. I'm still friends with Reds. I talk to Reds quite
Because this
frequently.
was not communicated with me.
And as far again, you pointed out the conflict of interest there, and I'm keeping them separate. The mods said they don't want to know anything about the finances. They even made that very clear, even though they didn't know about the $5,000 initial investment. They didn't.
Oh, sorry, I forgot something. Please continue. I just wanted to note that I forgot something.
The mods were not informed about our conversations and the situation with Reds. Most of them have no idea, and I'm not going to bring it up. But the fact remains is that they weren't privy to that until I had to inform them, because I don't know what they know or what they don't know. But I know the conversations that I've had with you and Reds, and they're not matching up. And this is beyond my comprehension to even think that you think that it is anything but that. But I will give you the benefit of the doubt on that and say there was no meeting of the minds. I would like, again, how to extricate from this.
Okay.
Right. The only thing I just wanted to sorry, it might take me a second to get my brain around the point again.
No, you're right.
I'm gonna have to play this back. Steve, what did you say before Reds? Because there was something that
like I said, there's a time crunch. Look, I'm willing to do this. I won't use any of your artwork. Okay.
I'm not, Steve, please, I'm trying to remember the point I needed to make. I'm just asking what you said beforehand, so that way it will trigger my memory. The thing I do for you all the time.
Something about Reds, something about the mods not being privy to the $5,000. Reds knowing that it would always be my control of the channel. That I was never gonna, because he, by the way, that was the key to the Ferrari. That was his analogy that you used, so I know that has been discussed.
Before that, Steve, please, I'm trying to remember a point.
I don't know. Maybe somebody else can help you with that. I don't.
Oh God, it was, God, no, it was important.
If you want, we can come back.
Yeah,
to it.
If I remember, I'll let you know. But it was important. Right. I've forgotten.
So a couple of things, and maybe with what I'm going to go through, because I've been taking some notes. Maybe with what I'm going to go through, it might trigger something. If it does, just let me know. Okay, so I remember. Sorry, I would like to, after you make your point, I would like to go back to talking about, I want to be allowed to be able to make this public. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Okay, so...
Well, can I weigh in on that real quick? Her willingness to make it public, it shows that this is not a fair and negotiable negotiation. Negotiations are usually private. They're business-oriented. She's wanting to use it as a weapon, which means to me that this is not a partnership agreement that was ever had a meeting mindset. I would never do such a thing to her. Using this being public is weaponizing. I am not comfortable with this. I am not comfortable with this discussion because I want to be extricated. Can we negotiate an extrication? Because I don't trust her at this point that she's willing to make this public when I think that is dishonest. I think that is against the business. I think would harm the business only not because of my thing, because of her. Because again, I could bring Reds into all this, and Reds would have a lot to say on this. That would be an agreement with me. I don't want to have I don't want to do that, right? But again, she's willing to put this public when it is a business arrangement. It's a business type of dealing we're trying to do. This just to me is saying that she's trying to steel arm this and use it as a threat. I'm not comfortable with this. So Chris, how do we extricate this?
Okay. I'm going to make a suggestion right now, which is actually what you've just said there, what you've both said there, is going to play into my suggestion, which is in 48 hours, I have a conversation with you both individually where we try and, because I don't think having you two together is going to resolve anything. Can we agree that for at least the next 48 hours, this will be kept as private?
We can postpone. Did anybody else record this?
Yes.
Okay.
I did not.
Again, I did not either, which again would have been known at the very beginning. I have no problem with people recording, but again, in a business negotiation, the mediator is the only supposed person to have
Yeah, I
recording for this
was
very reason.
told going into this that recording this was to be expected.
From whom?
Dapper said he was recording it. Chris
Yeah.
said he was recording
I was
it.
going to record it until Chris said he was, and then I just...
Yeah, so I'm recording it. And
I have recorded this because I'm part of
I did say
the
I'd send both.
just for my own
Right.
record.
And I'm not. Again, this seems to be weaponization.
Can we please stop with accusations, because it's not part of the discussions anyway? You're allowed to have whatever opinion you want, but
So let me ask this: whatever resolution we have, you have the intention of making it public. But I mean, I can't stop you, obviously, but I think it's to be harm you. I'm willing to put the champ. Let me finish. I'm finished, Monia.
Don't do that.
Let me finish. Is that your intent?
I'm sorry, I need you to repeat the question.
Do you have intention of making this public?
I don't know what my intention is yet.
Okay.
I recorded this for my own purposes,
All right.
and I the same way the mod channel was recorded, the same way that all of this was intended to be recorded, the same way that we intended to record all of the background things, the same way we've always said that all these kinds of conversations should be recorded. I recorded this under the exact same pretense that everything else has always been recorded anytime anything has ever been recorded. Not that I really think you deserve this answer anyway at this point.
Chris, did you not tell me that you were? Wait, did you not tell me that you're going to record it and then get us each a copy of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So why does it matter if I recorded it then?
Well, because it might be a reason not to give people a copy of it, and I would.
Are you saying that after the conversation?
That's why they have negotiations. But anyways,
hang on. So here's what I'm going to ask, Chesh. If we say that we're going to table this for 48 hours to try and resolve it, do you agree not to do anything publicly for the next 48 hours because there's potentially, as part of an agreement, it could be a non-disclosure?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, cool. So what we'll do is, in 48 hours, I'll have conversations with you individually. I'll set it up with you. If we can all agree that everyone here, so Dapper and Monia as well, if we can all agree that the conversation that's happened here will remain private in the meantime, and because potentially when these things are usually, if we can get a resolution, generally non-disclosure is a part of that, and best for everyone moving on, because especially when there's potentially a PR narrative that may need to be made. Let's just say, okay, so that's an agreement. So to answer one of Steve's questions, no, I'm not prepared to talk to Reds because Chesh isn't happy for that to happen, and also I'm not here as a judge. I don't have any decision making. I'm here purely to try and assist both of you to reach a resolution. Either way.
Absolutely.
So as far as I think opinions of mods as well, without wanting to be cruel, really that doesn't come into it, because at the end of the day, the only two opinions that matter and the only two decision makers in this process is Steve and Chesh. So that's it.
I do ask it. I think there will be questions from the mods, and I think that before all of this wraps up, I'm not saying in the next 2 days, but I'm saying by when all of this is done and we no longer need to have any more meetings with anyone, there needs to be some explanation that everyone, I mean, Steve and Chesh can agree on to tell the mods, because I honestly don't think it was a good idea to bring all of them in the beginning, because now they all have a reasonable expectation of knowing what the heck is going on.
Well, sure, but they also said they don't want to know. Most of them said we're not of any.
That's fair, but the ones who might want to, because they were brought in.
That's fair. Yeah, absolutely.
And people are allowed to change their mind about a situation. If they didn't want to know, they might want to know.
It's almost like maybe I had altruistic reasons for wanting to record the situations. Bizarre.
I think. Look, the reality is, when this is resolved, assuming that, and look, I'm confident we can get something that everyone's happy with, whether it's moving forward together or not. I'm pretty confident we can get something, because I think there's clear misunderstandings. I think there's a lot of anger and frustration from both of you. I think there's a lot of hurt from both of you as well.
I'm hurt, but I'm not angry. There's a big difference.
Yeah, but still, I think that there's emotion involved in it.
All right, so you want to table it for now?
You're both reasonable people.
You
So
want,
I
yeah,
think
and I want to be,
and then-
I want to be
and then-
fair as possible. This has been the whole reason why I brought in the mod. This is why I want open transparency. This is why I know.
Then
what-
why are you,
what's
if you
fair.
want open transparency, why are you not okay with this getting recorded?
Because I'm afraid you might try to manipulate it and weaponize it. Because
Wow,
I know, look,
Steve.
Manya,
Wow.
Manya, with all due respect,
Excuse me for a moment.
Why? Okay.
with all due respect, Manya,
Manya.
Manya, sorry,
all due
let's-
respect.
let's
No,
try to-
this goes both ways. This
No,
is
Manya,
absolutely absurd.
Manya, with all due respect, she's even said that
No,
she
you don't have any respect. You have shown no respect to Chesh
Sorry.
today.
All right. This is here's what's going to happen right now. Okay. I'm going to organise to talk to you both within 48 hours. Now, if either of you want to have someone else there, that is absolutely fine.
I would like to have Red's rhetoric there, if he would.
Okay, for the private conversation with you.
Yes.
Okay, Chesh, whoever you want to have there as well, I'm happy to. Now, I think what's going to happen here, if we continue, is it's just going to get more and more heated. And
Right.
no,
So you
no
want
one
to
will.
you want to table it. I'll postpone the thing on Monday. But the next meeting, I want it strictly to be about how do we extricate from the situation? How do we go to our separate ways? It's amicable. That I have no fear of retaliation. I have no fear of weaponization. I want, I care about Chesh. I want to do what's fair for her. I would never do anything or say anything negative about her in any way, shape, or form to anybody. So I want to make sure that is extended to me as well, because right now I'm not quite sure what to expect. So
Right.
That's the reasons why I think that, just having an amicable separation, because I would be happy to do Caffeine Corner with her still just the way it was. That was very fine. I did over and under with you. That was very fine. I'm willing to even just, put the non sequitur channel on hold and not even worry about it, because I told Cheshire from ages ago I wasn't even sure if I even want to do the show any longer, and she understood that. And I said, why don't you do it with someone else? Just give me 10%. I was willing to work with her, but at this point I don't feel comfortable to have a business relationship as far as the non sequitur show. If she wanted with something else, I'm completely fine with that. We can work out something like that very simply, because I worked it out with her before and there was no problem with that. But as far as the non sequitur show, I would like to extricate and pay her what she's due and go our separate ways.
All right.
That's
So
my intention.
here's what I'm going to ask for our conversation, Chesh. Come up with a figure that you think is fair, that I can then, and any other terms, conditions.
Is that something that I can talk with you about then? If you're talking to both of us, you said you wanted to talk to each of us individually, right? Is that something?
Yeah, so each individual. So that's something that I guess I was going to say that you could think of, that then when I have a conversation with Steve, I can say, Steve, here is what, and I assume that there may be multiple back and forths.
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
I don't have any kind of. The only thing I think is fair is that I think, given that if we're treating Steve's interpretation and my interpretation of the agreement in good faith, assuming that there was a miscommunication, then I think it is fair for me to get something a little bit different than only Steve's interpretation of the deal, given that I was doing work under different pretenses.
Sure. And look, however you think that best looks, and because obviously this is sort of going it's not fair for either party to say, right, let's get a number, now let's agree. There needs to be time and consideration to go into this to do it properly. So if you want to, I guess, think over the next 48 hours, Chesh, and then we can discuss the proposal that you think's fair. I'll discuss with Steve what he thinks is a proposal is fair, and ideally we'll get somewhere, hopefully,
I'm okay with that.
Close for both of you, that everyone walks away, I guess, satisfied.
But it is but what we're so I'm clear. We are negotiating over the 48 hours. What I would like to extricate. Correct.
That's
I'm not willing. Okay. I'm not willing to partner with her any longer on the show. I'm not willing to. That's non-negotiable. That's now off the table. But I want to make sure she's fairly compensated. Okay.
And then, so I guess so if you both want to think what that could look like as far as that fair compensation and moving forward, in the meantime, this conversation that's agreed will remain confidential until such time as those conversations have been finalized. Like I said, because there may be a non-disclosure or a joint statement that you two want to put out together, and we don't want to have anything that could
Right. No,
potentially compromise that.
I think the joint statement is optimal. She still has her channel that she does. She does great stuff on her channel. I have my own personal channel, even if I don't do anything longer on the Non Sequitur show. I think it would be extremely detrimental to have any kind of, finding external. I care about Chesh.
I think it might be poignant, Steve, that we both remove each other as managers and mods off of each other's channel for the time being.
Sure.
And I think with what you're saying, since it's non-negotiable, you may as well remove me off of Non Sequitur show anyway. I do have one other thing I'm probably going to ask about, but that will come down the line, so it doesn't have to be covered right now. I just need to write it down real quick so I don't forget. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. And I can
agree with that. Yeah, I can remove myself as manager from a channel. Yes.
All right. So just to be clear, so we'll end this now. I'm going to try and talk to you both reasonably within the next 48 hours. Obviously, I think we all accept that because of time differences, time zones, and just being able to get together, there could be a little bit of a discrepancy in the 48 hours.
I'm flexible, and I'm not worried about like an urgency of, oh, Steve better get back to me right this second. That's fine.
Cool. And we also agree that yes, there's going to be a recording of this that will be available for both Steve and Chesh, but it remains private until such time as this matter's finalised, because for the reasons we explained earlier. So if everyone's good with that, Steve, you're actually muted. I don't know if you.
Oh, I said, yeah, I'm absolutely fine with that. I won't be discussing with anybody else. If Jess wants to talk to Dapper or Monty about it, that's actually, absolutely fine. Okay. But I won't be bringing any else. I won't be talking to anybody else about it for 48 hours, with one exception, just to let him know that when I talk to you, I will ask him if he's willing to come into that conversation with you. Okay.
I'm not comfortable with Reds being involved at all due to a conflict of interest, but that's just I'm just noting that I'm not. It's just a note. Since when has that ever mattered?
What is the conflict? Would you like to tell what the conflict of interest is?
Reds and I dated, and it didn't end well.
Right. Okay. So, but unfortunately, he's still part of the Non Sequitur show input. He always has been, because of it.
Whether it's conflict of interest or not. I'll let Chris decide on that. I defer to his better judgment on this one.
My thoughts are, I wouldn't allow Reds to come into a conversation or negotiation with Chesh here.
Right, I agree with that.
However, really, he would only be there, I guess, in a support or advocate. Well, not even really an advocate, because there's nothing really. More of a support person.
It would be like, Reds is backing up that this is what Steve says the agreement was. That would be, I think.
He could be questioned on it.
Yeah, that's what you mean, though, Steve, right? Like, as a quote-unquote witness to whatever discussions were had.
What's wrong with having a witness?
I didn't say it was bad. I'm just trying to help explain what you were trying to say in a way that I made sure I understood what you were saying and Chris understood what you were saying.
Yeah, okay. And I'll be clear that
I'm getting very tired.
It doesn't matter who's a witness to what. I'm not here to make a decision. I am not here.
Exactly.
I'm not a judge.
You're here to mediate, right? I got you.
I'm a mediator. So,
but he might help you in the mediation, is what I'm saying.
Sure. Okay. So if we're all good with that, I understand it's probably very late for all of you where you are. So let's end it here. If anyone has any questions in the meantime, send them to me, and I'm happy to respond. And any conversations. So any conversation I have with Chesh remains between myself and Chesh. Any conversation I have with Steve remains between myself and Steve, and I won't be discussing it with anyone else.
That's fine.
Is that a matter of like a barring whatever needs to be told to one or the other?
Within reason. If something's said in confidence, or if you ask a question.
Yeah, this is the first time I've done this. I just wanted to be clear about what the expectation was, because how that seems to apparently go.
Reasonable expectations. So if you were to say,
imagine that. Reasonable expectations.
So,
I think everybody has reasonable expectations.
Yeah. If something's clearly said in confidence, then it remains in confidence, and I'll ask that everyone respects that.
Agreed.
So, all right, cool. So let's wrap it up there. I'll download the recording a bit later, and I'll get it to you guys in the next sort of 24 hours. Yeah.
Are you just going to drop it in like a Google Drive that we all have access to, or?
Yeah, I've got to download
Okay.
it first. So what it
Yeah,
does is
I
it-
wasn't
it
sure
saves
if you were
out
gonna
on
like
screen
email
rather
it to us individually, or if you're gonna drop it in like a box. So it's a Google
than-
Drive.
Yeah, I'll put
link.
it in
Yeah.
I'll put it in on Google.
You can
So,
yeah, you know how to find each of us.
Yeah. So all right.
I think one small caveat: to remove me from the channel from the manager Chesh, I think that has to be on your end. I don't know how to voluntarily.
Yeah, so
do
you've
that.
got to remove me from yours, and I've got to remove you from mine. I just
Well,
didn't,
yeah,
I
but-
just
but
didn't
there's-
want to do that without like
Well, I could-
talking
we're
about
talking
it.
I'm not talking about moderation. I actually have manager for your channel. Right?
Yes.
You have to remove that.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, cool. Easy. All right. Well, I'll talk to you all in the next 48 hours, and yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Chris.
Cheers. All right.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. Really quickly, Chesh, just while you doing okay? You all right? I saw you. Sorry, I've ended the recording. I could see you're a bit upset. You're okay?
No.
Okay. No worries. Well, look, I'll have a chat to you in the next couple of days, and hopefully it's all sorted. Okay. So I can see you're upset. So, all right, I'll drop everyone out, and I'll talk to you all soon. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks so much.
No worries. See you all. Bye.